When it comes to private label products from Amazon, there are a lot of opportunities with products made out of wood. Unfortunately, people get extremely confused. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to use this video to explain what types of wood to import, some considerations for importing wood, basically give you a guide on how to get started with wood products. All right, so when I started selling on Amazon, wooden products made up a bulk of the opportunity that I initially found. And when I started buying wooden products, especially from China or places like India, I realized I actually had to get those into the country. And there's a lot of people that confuse the difference between selling a product on Amazon and actually producing and importing those products. Right now, I don't want to talk about Amazon. I just want to talk about getting those products into the country, getting them into the marketplace that you want to sell, doing it legally and doing it with as few headaches as possible. All right, so when you sell a product that's made of wood and you're trying to get it into the country, importing it, there's a couple things that need to happen. One is you need to consider fumigation, and the other one you need to consider is import documents required. Now, later in this video, I'm going to talk about some specific category-based considerations. Right now, I just want to talk about the wooden products themselves. The two most common things I see people asking about, fumigation and import documents. I'm going to start with the import document. The first thing that you have to have when you're bringing a product in that's made of wood is generally what's called a LACEY Act declaration. LACEY Act declaration. This is basically telling the US government, the Customs and Border Patrol, what type of wood you're bringing in. This is extremely simple. Your freight forwarder should take care of this. You probably don't even know what's happening. And it's just a one-page document that says, this is made of pine, or this is made of western cedar, or this is made of mango wood, whatever you're bringing in. Don't get too bent out of shape. The LACEY Act paper document, single document, is extremely simple, and it just tells Customs and Border Patrol what you're bringing into the country. Again, do not panic about this. This is very simple. This is very basic, and your freight forwarder should be handling this anyways. The more confusing or maybe complex document that you need or consideration you need to have is fumigation. And let me explain why fumigation is important. Wood houses things. It houses insects, it houses molds, it houses funguses, it houses algae. All sorts of crazy living organisms can be in wood. And when all of these different countries and governments started looking at, trade routes and saying how much stuff's crossing borders, they realized, man, we're transporting all of these things. Bugs that live in the Himalayas are now in the Rocky Mountains, and this thing that is native to Brazil is now found in Iceland. And they decided they have to stop the transmission of these living organisms for the health of the earth, let's say. There are multiple ways in which to eliminate the risk of these organisms. The most common is fumigation, all right? Fumigation is a chemical that's fairly harmless to us. It isn't something that lingers on the wood. And basically what you do is you take these wooden products and you put them in a fogging chamber or a fogging tent, and you fog them, and it kills any living organisms in this wood. So if I have a product that's made of wood and I get it fumigated, it's basically sterilized. None of those things are living in it. And then I will get a certificate saying it was fumigated on this date, and that certificate lasts a certain period of time. So as a scenario, if I'm bringing something from China to the US to sell on Amazon, I will have that fumigated prior to it leaving China, and I get a certificate, and that certificate will eventually expire. Why does it expire? Because if I fumigate it, but I leave a pallet of wooden products sitting on a dock or in a warehouse in China for 6 months, things can get back in it. Insects, molds, funguses. So there is a timeline. Again, don't panic, because your supplier and your freight forwarder should be handling this for you, okay? You just need to make sure that you're aware of the fact that it needs fumigation to make sure that you're not gonna have problems exporting your products. The second most popular way in which to kill living organisms in a wooden product is by heat treating it. The most prevalent place that you're gonna see heat treating is actually wooden pallets. If you get a wooden pallet that was deemed appropriate for import, you're gonna see this crazy stamp on the side of it, usually on both sides of the pallet. It's like either ink or it's sometimes put in with heat, like a heat stamp, and it's gonna have information based on who actually heat treated this. It has to be a licensed company. This doesn't mean that the products have been on fire. It usually is about 140 or 150 degrees, I believe, Fahrenheit, for a short period of time, and that heat's going to kill any living organism. So you've got fumigation and you've got heat treating. One of these two needs to happen for all wooden products that are raw wood. All right, time out. Now I just introduced something new, raw wood. When you're bringing wooden products into the US, LACEY Act is going to be important, but you don't always need fumigation or heat treating for all types of wood. You just need it for raw wood. So now let me explain what that means and also explain the third way in which you can eliminate these living organisms. The third way in which you can eliminate these organisms is by treating the wood. Now, how is that done? If a piece of wood is painted, if it's varnished, if it's lacquered, if it has some sort of sealant, some sort of oil, those living organisms can't live within that wood. So if I take a piece of pine lumber and I paint it and then I ship it, that's sealed, it's done. It doesn't need fumigation, it doesn't need heat treatment. It's completely treated. Now let's talk about the other types of woods that by nature are heat treated. What about plywood? The way plywood is built is it is lots of little pieces of wood glued together, heat treated, and pressed together. Plywood, for all intents and purposes, are not a danger to living organisms. It's just raw, natural wood. All right, so let's review for a second. LACEY Act is just a declaration saying what type of wood it is. That's easy. Your supplier's going to handle that. If you have raw wood, you have to either have it fumigated or heat treated. Your supplier and or shipper should be handling that before it's exported. A certificate saying when that was done goes with the shipping documents. Or you can have wood that does not require the heat treatment of fumigation because it's treated, it's painted, it's lacquered, it's varnished, it's sealed, or the wood itself was treated like plywood or OSB or particle board. So let me show you some differences. I've got my Legion sword here, and I actually bought this on Amazon. And if you look closely at this product, this is raw wood. There is no, this even has a little bit of stain on it just to color it, but there's not like a varnish, there's not a lacquer. This is raw wood. This would have had to have definitely been fumigated or heat treated before it left China. 100%, no doubt. And then the LACEY Act is gonna say, well, this is just Chinese pine. If this is not fumigated and it comes into the US, it can be held up at customs, it can be held at the port, you could have massive problems. Get your raw wood fumigated. Then we have the coffin shelf that we used in the Helium-10 Project X case study. This is safe for two reasons. One is it's painted. Is it wood? Yes. Do I need the LACEY Act certificate? Yes. But do I need for this to be fumigated? No. It's painted. Every surface on this is painted. This is not raw wood. In addition, if I scrape this off, you would see that this is actually plywood. So there are two reasons that this is safe to import without fumigation. It's plywood, so it's treated lumber, and it's painted. So this is safe. No fumigation, yes fumigation. I know that this might seem confusing, but let me also tell you this. If you're using a reputable freight forwarder, they will handle this for you. They will make sure that you're compliant. They will make sure that they can ship this stuff. They will make sure that you have the fumigation if you need it. If you're using a factory who's using a cut rate shipping company and you're the importer of record, it can get a little bit confusing. So try your best to use door-to-door shipping. We'll talk about that in another video, DDP shipping, to make sure that you have no liability at all. Now, let me back up and also say this. I have only mentioned the bare minimums of importing wood. There are other requirements for product-specific categories, okay? So for example, if I am importing a butcher block cutting board made of bamboo from China, and it's raw wood, it's not treated, what do I need? I need LACEY Act form, I need it fumigated because it is raw wood, but I'm also going to need to worry about things like FDA inspection and FDA clearance at import. Why? Because this is being in contact with food. This is a food-based product. What if I'm bringing in a raw wood toy? I've got to have my fumigation, got to have my LACEY Act certificate, but I also have to have whatever requirements for toys for whatever country I'm importing it into. So when I'm talking about wood, I'm talking about just the material. There may be further additional certifications or requirements that you have to have. So don't quote me and say, oh, I brought in a medical device made of raw wood and all Tim said I had to have was fumigation. No, if it's a medical device, it has its own requirements. If it's an ingestible, if you're selling somebody sawdust for the purpose of cleansing their colon, whatever purpose it is, those are different requirements. All I'm talking about are wood. So keep this in mind. LACEY Act, fumigation or heat treating, the types of wood that don't need those. That's basically all there is to it. Let your freight forwarder handle it. Make sure that you are using someone reputable. Make sure that you've got a good export process leaving the country so you don't get in trouble for trying to export like a raw wood that's endangered or something like that, which I have done. Another story for another day. I hope this has been helpful. If you have questions, comment below. And also, if you have questions, keep in mind that you may be overthinking it. This is fairly simple. Good freight forwarder, basic knowledge of what's required for wood. You can do this. If you found this content helpful, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you share this. Share this in your Facebook group. Share this in your mastermind. Share this on your own page. We want to get the word out and demystify this seemingly complex thing, and it's actually not complex, it's simple. Subscribe, like, share. We appreciate you doing that.